Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 527 for the 25th of November 2018. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia. Oh, just recently we had a weird situation where dirt and dust and particulates from the inland of Australia headed over Sydney. It was like a red dust storm in a way. Coming up on this week's show, Maynard's spooky action. More from Skepticon, the Australian Skeptics National Convention. Maynard chats to consumer advocate Kate Browne. Now, Kate was the MC for our convention. She used to be at Choice magazine, and she's also known as the Guilty Mum on the TV show The Checkout, which sadly is no longer being produced. Much to our chagrin. Nevertheless, Kate will discuss the pink tax, where women are charged more for the same product than men, simply because they're women, I guess, or the product happens to be coloured pink. Fakery in chemist shops, marketing to children, and her new job at finder.com.au. Maynard also chats to Dr. Vyom Sharmer, who was one of our presenters. I chat to a woman who saw a big cat in Australia, or was it something else? And we hear from Eran Segev, our reporter, former president and new life member of Australian Skeptics. Following that, I chat to Brian Dunning from Skeptoid, the popular podcast, almost as popular as the Skeptic Zone, I think. Isn't that right, Brian? He's going to update us on his latest documentary called Science Friction. And this documentary is about how scientists and skeptics are misrepresented in the media. Then to round off the show, Maynard's back, and he's going to be talking to Fiona Patten from the Reason Party. Now, this is a truncated interview, abridged, the highlights, snippets of a much longer interview with Fiona Patten. You can hear over at Maynard.com.au. Now, we've had Fiona Patten on the Skeptic Zone before. Many years ago, she used to be with the Sex Party. They changed their name to the Reason Party, and we'll hear a little bit about her point of view. Stay tuned at the end of the show for more announcements from me. But now it's time for me to run down the stairs. Where are those cats? Open the studio door. Oh, Hen. She's hiding at the top of the stairs. Come here. Now she's looking at me all goggle-eyed, as they say. It's time for me to run down the stairs past Henrietta the cat, go to the freezer, get out a frozen pizza, put it in the oven. And while I do all that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
Well, of course, we wouldn't have a conference without someone hosting the whole thing, and you've been doing a great job, Kate Browne.
Oh, thanks, Maynard.
You've been good. Like, I mean, you just came out and you did a thing about ghosts, because apparently your daughter has a ghost problem, maybe.
Yeah, well, look, we've all got the ghost problem, because she likes to wake me up pretty much every night, running down the hall. There's a ghost in my room.
And how much is real and how much because she just wants to cuddle up?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think she knows it gets me, because I can remember being scared of ghosts and things that were going to grab my ankles from under the bed when I was little. So maybe she's discovered my Achilles heel.
Look, I still like to dangle my hand over and go, ooh, and imagine something still. But then again, I live alone and have a fairly sad life. I still feel like I'm living on the edge if I put my feet over the edge of the bed, just in case. Yeah. You never know. What's your favourite skeptical thing? Because obviously with the work on the checkout, you consumer fraud really gets your goat, so to speak. Yeah. So what's the other ones you're into?
Yeah, look, I'm really looking forward to Trish Hahn's talk this afternoon about women's woo. I think, there is a lot products and treatments that are targeted at women.
Well, it's almost, where do you stop? Because I mean, you yourself have pointed out stuff from like childcare through to when you have the child, before you have the child, and then all the way through to like cosmetics. And where do you stop, really?
Yeah, and look, I think, especially young women are a target. They're encouraged to spend money on all kinds of stuff. And I think the greatest bit of advice I ever heard is when you see something, a product or a service that's targeted women, ask, are the men doing it? And if they're not, maybe then you're paying for something that's probably not really necessary.
Like the old pink razor.
Oh, pink razor. And the other day, actually, I was in a chemist. There were earplugs. There were blue earplugs and pink earplugs, but even better than that, the pink earplugs were $1 more expensive.
Wow.
Special lady earplugs.
Lady earplugs. Yeah. That's amazing. That you, because they are next to each other all the time, and everybody who's even doing a little comparative shopping would notice.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty blatant. I had to take a photo, actually, because I couldn't believe it. But, hey, they were pink. What price pink?
Well, all the years of doing consumer information, what's been the most blatant one that you've gone, oh, come on?
Oh, gosh,
there's so many that because people just try it on, and they mainly get through, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I think rather than target a product, I just think when you walk into a pharmacy or a chemist, it is mind-blowing how many products are there looking legit that aren't. And
look, the post office is getting like that now too.
Yeah, it is. I hate going to the post office with my kids. We end up coming out with 2 teddy bears and a weird magnetic, arthritis treatment. For me, I've just seen so many. I'm disappointed I can't pull one out of my head, but that speaks to how many I've seen.
Is it because it's like stuff like your homeopathic waters and things like that? Yeah. One that is marketed because the chemist is near a fairly intense Catholic private school in my area. Rescue Remedy, and they've got the picture of the girl looking very stressed in the exam, and I imagine that would be a big maker for them. Yeah.
Oh, look, it would, and that's right. The stuff I've done around Guilty Mum, looking at being marketed to the parents, there's definitely a shift. And my oldest daughter's 11 now, where they're marketing to the children. My daughter's talked about being stressed, and she told me she needed lavender oil because lavender oil calms you down. I was like, honey, it doesn't, and she got really cross with me because
it smells nice, but that might calm you down, but it doesn't actually do anything physiologically, does it?
No, but she didn't want to hear that.
Hang on, I've got a doctor there. Does lavender oil lower the blood pressure, sir?
God, no.
There you go. See, that's at a medical. See, that's 14 years at medical school, and he passed most of the exams.
And that is a medical term. God, no. I like it. I think our doctor here should talk to my daughter. But that's the thing. She's 11. She's not just listening to me anymore. She's listening to other adults, what she sees, what she hears.
Oh, she might rebel. You might have a reverse ab-fab thing where you end up with the hippie kid.
I reckon I will, to be honest. Wow, okay. Bracing myself for it.
And look, for those people who might have to get up in front of the skeptics and do a bit of funny stuff there, are they a tough crowd because they go, I'm sceptical of that humour?
I was a little worried, Maynard, because I was like, they're skeptics. They're cynical.
There's a few neckbeards out there too. Got to watch out for the neckbeards.
Luckily, it's too dark from where I'm going to look out for them. Yeah. Let me say this. I've been very pleasantly surprised. They applaud me every time I come out on the stage. I haven't even done anything.
Look, well, the checkout was widely beloved across this group of people.
I know, and that's lovely. I'm just worried they're going to turn me into a monster. I might come home tonight and expect to be applauded just for walking into the kitchen or into the office.
Kid at 2 a.m. You do some skepticism in your own bed. Bugger off.
Right, and then applaud me. They're a great audience. They're really lovely.
Any idea what your next show might be? You want to do another? Are you into another media excursion already? Has someone snapped you? Oh, you'd be hosting Current Affair, wouldn't you? Or Today Tonight or something? That'd be you.
I've been on a Current Affair many times, Maynard. In fact, I went to a party one night and someone said, "Oh, it's Kate from a Current Affair." Yeah. Wow, that was when I went. Maybe
I'll take that salary.
Yeah. I would love to be the next Tracy Grimshaw. Mm-hmm. I'd do a good line in Outrage. Yeah, I reckon I could own it.
Now, is there a point where they drive the truck of cash up to you? This is like the commercial radio conundrum that I found myself in. They drive the truck of cash up to your door, and in return for that, you do not have to care about what the content is. Like, you can play Jimmy Barnes. So I didn't know what Kaysan was until the mid-90s when I went onto a commercial station. I'd heard of the song, but I didn't know what the song was until I went there, because on Triple J we never played it, you see. Cool. So you pull up, and I was just playing this awful music and talking in between it. I really couldn't do it for long. Could you do the checkout version of that, where you go, oh, everything's just fine, everything's great, buy it, pink razor's great?
Well, I reckon after sort of playing a character, being the guilty mum, I could sell the living daylights out of any old crap. And I did a good line in kind of hand modelling and holding up products and smiling cheesily. Actually, I've just sort of my next future career move, the brand power lady.
Oh, now, how does that work? Every time I see that, I go, it's obviously an infomercial. There's probably generic versions which are cheaper, even if you want that stuff. Yeah. How does that brand power get through? Can you explain how it works and why they persist with it?
Yeah, actually, I'm so glad you asked me this, because it's so interesting.
It's obviously.
It's so successful. There is a formula that they use and an approach. So if you've seen the ads, they're very grainy. They deliberately don't grade them. So when you're watching it, they stand out. You know, other ads are like glossy and beautiful and colourful.
So it's lo-fi to look more real.
And it's deliberately lo-fi. And the way that those, usually it's women, I think, that present the products, they are, you know, they don't always speak the same way commercial voiceover people speak. They sound like normal people. They dress them down. They make them super kind of approachable looking. And it's to kind of create a short circuit when you're watching an ad. And the music is a big part of that. That's why I went, da-na-na. That's how they all start. And because we spent a lot of time looking at them on the checkout to kind of model the guilty mum on that. And it is a formula, and it's been used all over the world. It's not a uniquely Australian thing. They're in a whole lot of markets.
Is the target specifically female mothers? Is it the guilty mother? Is that exactly what they're looking for?
It depends on the product. A lot of the time it is. A lot of them are around sort of, products for the home, products for kids.
Antibacterial stuff, yeah.
Yes, must clean. Yeah. It's fascinating. And they have a couple of offshoots. There's a health channel I've seen, Healthy Living, I think it's called. But this company that makes these ads, they're in India, they're in South Africa.
Well, they would make the specific content for doctor surgeries television too, wouldn't they? Because that reminds me of what they've been doing there. Oh, yeah, the doctor goes, oh, yeah.
Our circling doctor.
That's only because they won't have you on there.
Interjecting over there and affirming everything we said. It's making me feel good. Yeah, doctor surgeries are the worst. Yeah. I've seen some of the worst.
Because you can't go anywhere.
No, you're trapped.
Well, why not show some old episodes of Hawaii Five-0? You know,
I enjoyed it when you could read a Woman's Day magazine from 1986. So
look, the Queen's getting married again.
Yeah, I love that. I miss it.
Oh, look, well, thank you for doing this, all the great hosting you've been doing over this weekend. Where can we catch you online or find out more about you?
Look, I've just moved over to finder.com.au, so I'm doing a whole bunch of work
what
around...
goes on there?
Yeah, look, it's a comparison site, not unlike Choice, but we look at services, so health insurance, credit cards, home loans, money, shopping, lifestyle. So, we help people kind of break through the choice conundrum. There are so many choices out there to make. We kind of break things down, compare them, tell people, the kind of too long didn't read version of, products and services.
Look, I've only recently discovered, because my dad, because my dad, he's 90, he loves ringing up the health people on says he's me, and then does investigations about my health insurance. He's going, you are covered for psychiatry. And I'm going, no, I'm not. That's really expensive. And he went, yes, you are. I rang the woman. The woman told me. No, he got psychology and psychiatry mixed up. There's about a $300 difference, I think.
Yeah, I reckon there is. But we were just chatting earlier. Life's pretty complicated. We have to make a lot of choices.
Oh, that's why I get my 90-year-old dad to do it. He's down with it. He won't have any of this go to the internet stuff. He wants to know over the phone, and then because he's deaf, he mishears.
I like it. Maybe we need an army of elderly people with lots of time on their hands.
Driving Toyota Crowns around the street very slowly in front of you.
Yeah, bless that. Is there a rule that you can only buy a Toyota Crown if you're over 75?
I would think so too. And what would be your recommendation for a hot car? Because you have to get around and do mum stuff, often with a couple of kids, and it's hard to get a car that looks kind of good that does that.
Oh, mate, my car is shocking. It's got what we call woolly scratches on the back of it. There's all kinds of random toys and bits of food, and it's a biohazard. So my dream would be to have. I don't even care what kind of car, Maynard. A car that is not covered in food.
What's inside is right. Okay.
Socks, random bits of hockey paraphernalia.
Shout out to everybody who can't see the floor of their car for all the mess there.
Yeah, I'm with you. with you.
And what's the website where you're working now?
Finder.com.au.
Right, see you there. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Maynard.
Look, I'm here with a doctor. Who have we got again?
Dr. Vyom Sharmer.
Now, here we have an entire table of nutrition. As a doctor, what should I be going for and what should I be avoiding? Explain it to the listener.
Well, it's good you asked me, in my opinion, as a doctor. If you asked me as Vyom Sharmer, not Dr. Vyom Sharmer, I would say smash the Tim Tams. They're looking good. There's some double-coated ones here. But as a doctor, I will say, the tabbouleh looks good, the banana's good, blueberries, and the white bread's like, it's not going to do too much damage. There's some good vegetables and stuff in there.
Now, what about the fruit there? Am I just eating a whole bunch of sugar under another name?
No, so here's a good thing about fruit, right? I mean, there is a balanced approach towards eating fruit, but the great thing about natural fruits is that they're packed with fibre. It's only when you juice them and you take all that fibre out of them, you're basically just having added sugar. So fruit by itself, no problems, go for it.
Hang on. Oh, yeah, look, we just had Kate Browne near us and I was going to ask her, but what's the most difficult food to sell to kids? Is it still broccoli and the ones that are a bit bitter like that? Is it the hardest thing to get kids to eat?
Yeah, green leafy vegetables are always, but broccoli, there's something about it. I think we've built up this mythology around it, and we sometimes make it difficult. We've got to clever things like, I don't know, coat them in chocolate or something, wean the kids off it, maybe. I don't know. This is not me. This is not Dr. Vyom talking. This is crazy Vyom talking.
And look, and there's plenty of that going on here today too. It's great. So look, I'm going to have a little bit of fruit, a little bit of a sandwich, and I'm going to have the double-coated Tim Tam because it's not the kind of thing I ever have in my house. People, I think I've mentioned it on the show before, no chocolate, no biscuits, no ice cream, no nothing, and people say, no fun. I will not have chocolate in my home, so I'm a hypocrite.
Well, it's day 2 of the Skeptics Convention, Skepticon. I'm with Tessa. Hello, Tessa.
Hi.
Hi. You were in the audience. I just hosted a panel about old-fashioned skepticism, UFOs and ghosts and things like that, and you brought something to my attention about cryptids or strange things in the Australian countryside.
Yes, the big cats that people claim to have seen. I've actually seen one.
Ooh.
Or that is, I've seen a wallaby.
Okay, you better explain this.
I was my family has a farm near a national park, so I used to go bushwalking a lot. I'd see a lot of kangaroos, the occasional wallaby. Don't see them as often; they're a lot shyer. And I was bushwalking, and I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and I turned to look at it. And for a couple of seconds, it was absolutely a panther. It was, I saw it. I know what I saw. It was huge. It was running away from me. So it was the hindquarters and the tail, and I was staring at it, and I remembered suddenly that. The best explanation that I'd heard was that there were wallabies, that people had misseen them, and as soon as that popped into my mind, I suddenly saw it completely differently, and what had absolutely been a big cat was just as absolutely a wallaby. Wow. And what had looked huge was just the largest cross-section of a wallaby, because all their bulk is in their hind legs, and the big front of the cat that I just assumed was there, I could see it wasn't. And
so you're not surprised then when people swear black and blue they've seen a big cat?
Oh, absolutely not, no. And I have heard that there were escapes back in the day from the old travelling circuses.
It's a story I've heard too, yeah.
So probably once or twice people had seen big cats, but not anymore. There's not a breeding population. And
there's not a lot of travelling circuses with big cats, I don't think.
No, not anymore.
And have you been enjoying the conference so far?
Yeah, it's my first time.
Oh, wow.
But it's been a lot of fun. The speakers have been very interesting, and I'll probably be back next time.
Well, I certainly hope so, and thank you very much.
Yeah. Look, one of the things that they do here at Skepticon is they honour the skeptics that have done work in the community and for the group over the years. And, of course, someone who we've spoken to many times, the President, Eran Segev. How are you? And congratulations on being a life member. Is that what's life member?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm not the president anymore.
Oh, sorry. I'm used to saying prez and snapping and doing the salute and everything, and I'm just getting used to doing that for Alethea. But she just goes, get out. And Alethea does this thing you used to do. It must be she puts a foot on my foot and then pushes me backwards. And is that something all the presidents have skipped?
I was always trying to put my foot behind your foot and push you backwards.
Well, it's the same effect. I fall down. It's a great thing. You skeptics have got that thing of pushing me to the floor. But now you don't have to do that anymore because you're resting. You've been put out to pasture. You're for the skeptical glue factory.
I'd like to think of myself as a backbencher.
Yeah. So, what does being a life member entitle you to? Do you get like free drinks or anything, or a chocolate bar?
I get a free platter. Essentially, I'm just a member for life without having to pay for it. That's the technical side. But I think for me, the reason I was so blown away is because it's a mark of respect. It's an honor bestowed on me by people who I really appreciate and admire, and they recognize things about that I've done over the past probably 16 years since I've been in the committee, but in particular over the last 9 years as president, most of that time. They've recognized my effort, they've recognized my achievements, and I think they've recognized our achievements as a committee during that time.
What was the most difficult phase of being president there? Well, what was the crisis in which you had to land the plane in the crosswind and the rain and when you really earned your money that you aren't paid?
I think the main thing that I've always tried to do is to actually avoid those things. So I can't say that there's been any moment where I thought things were going to be particularly bad or was worried about the organization. There's been a lot of brouhaha in America, in particular, in the US skeptical community. That I think we've managed to avoid.
Certainly have.
There's been some. There's always, you deal with people. There's always a bit of politics, and avoiding that being a major issue and focusing on what's important has been something that I've been really focusing on, and it's been very important to me throughout this time. And I think we have done very well in that respect because we have avoided those major dramas.
Well, congratulations on Eran. And I tried to get a chat with Martin Hadley, of course, who also was made a life member, and he wouldn't talk. He's quite a humble guy there. I just wonder if you could briefly speak as to why Martin received a life membership.
Well, Martin has been on the committee for about 20 years now, if I remember correctly. Well, so before me, and Martin has actually. There were issues within the skeptical, within the committee, within the skeptical community that were around the very first days that I joined. Were major issues that really threatened the committee, and he stepped into the breach, became president, dealt with things very well. He's been the treasurer for a very long time. So he's been a wonderful contributor to the committee. He has actually helped in ways that I try to avoid these things. He actually stepped into the breach when things did go bad and helped sort out the problems. But also, he's a great legal mind, and we always have legal issues that we need to deal with. They're not lawsuits or anything like that, but there's considerations that we have to take into account. And he's always been a great servant for the skeptical community at large, not just to the skeptical, not just to Australian skeptics in that respect. So it's a well-deserved award for him.
And what's it like to be a bit more relaxed at one of these conferences and be a little bit more of a participant in the conference rather than one of the big organisers?
Well, so first of all, in the last couple of months, I've joined the organising committee because
you've got some time to burn now.
Yeah? And I actually, it's just something to do with my job that gives me that freedom. It's a job that I can't take home, so I have the evenings to myself. And so I take care of some things, and I've helped with whatever I can, and I also take care of the video and audio recordings, so everything will be recorded. So that's why I'm in the control room and you don't see me.
That's why I'm not seeing you. And what do you think will be the upcoming big skeptical issues in the coming year or so? Is there something that's sort of raising its head? You're going, this could be something.
I can't help thinking that we're going to have to tackle climate change more strongly as a community because it's a political issue, but it should be. It's a scientific issue. It's a huge threat to the world, to humanity. When I say to the world, I must say, the world is going to be fine. But we are killing the biosphere, we're killing animals at an unprecedented rate, and we are also making life very, very hard for mostly the poorest of society around the world. And that is, I think, something that as a skeptical community we're going to have to do something about. We're going to have to get involved.
Well, thanks, Eran, and congratulations once again. There's yet challenges ahead.
Thanks, Maynard.
Time travelers, cursed paintings, ghostly apparitions, mysterious creatures. The world is filled with incredible and seemingly inexplicable stories, but often things are not what they seem. If you are like me and you too want to learn how to discern fact from fiction, I invite you to join me every 2 weeks on my YouTube channel. I am Massimo Polidoro, and we'll investigate together and discover the truth behind many stranger stories.
To join Massimo Polidoro every 2 weeks, head to YouTube and look for Stranger Stories. Joining me now all the way from Bend in Oregon, a beautiful place, it's my old friend Brian Dunning. Hello, Brian.
Hello, Richard. How are you, sir?
I'm very well indeed, very well, and I thought I'd give you a call, firstly to congratulate you on 650 episodes of Skeptoid.
Thank you very much. Yes, it is quite, it blows me away every time I think of it, and people ask me, hey, do you remember that episode on this? I go, no.
Well, after 650 episodes, I can well understand that. Do you ever go back and just re-listen to old episodes to either remind yourself or do research? I find myself doing that.
Not to do research, but sometimes when I'm car, I'll put on the premium feed that has all of them in there and just put it on random shuffle or something. And my gosh, there's episodes that I'd completely forgotten about that are just fascinating, and some that I remember. Oh yeah, this was a good one. I'll listen to it, but I can't remember the ending, what the conclusion is. So, I mean, I feel like I'm an audience member listening for the first time in a lot of cases. It's fun.
Now, I've told you this before, but for the benefit of the listeners, when my mother some years ago was undergoing chemotherapy and was sitting there in her chair in the hospital, and she was of the age where she wasn't really up on technology, which was fine. And I gave her a copy of one of the Skeptoid books. I can't remember which one now, of course. And she sat there while the chemo was going in and just poured through the book. And she looked at me and she said, wow, this guy is really interesting.
Well, you should qualify that. She'd never met me in person yet.
That's true.
See how dull I actually am.
And as you say, the books are for people who might not listen to podcasts, but still maybe sit on the train or do something like that and like to thumb through books.
Which is still most people. I mean, I still, when I'm talking to a group or something, most of the people in there don't listen to podcasts. I would say an increasing number are. That number is always growing, and that's great. But there's still people who have heard of them, know what they are, but don't listen, or there's still the people who don't have any idea what they are. Maybe they think it's something to do, well, I don't have an iPod, or who knows like that.
So there's the books, of course, there's the podcast, but more and more you're doing public appearances, public talks. How's that going?
It's really the funnest thing that I do. I've got some fairly regular gigs now where I go to certain universities, same time every year, and meet with the same class. Well, it's a different class of students, but it's the same class. I've got 4 or 5 of those going now. Those are always fun. Even local stuff, just meeting with the local skeptics in the pub group with the same people we see each month, those are always fun. And whenever I'm on a vacation or a trip for some other purpose or anything, I always try to contact whatever the local skeptics group is there or something and say, hey, any chance we could get together a meeting or something? Whenever that works, it's fun. I love meeting new skeptical folks.
It is. I totally agree. I well remember your talk I attended it at DragonCon probably 10 years ago now, which was about the missing Russian cosmonauts. It's an evergreen, isn't it? Things like that. It's always interesting.
Yeah, in fact, I just gave that talk about a week ago to a local group right here in town. Just, a small group. We had like 30 people in the room. It was at a little local brewery. And the neat thing is it was a semi-private room, right? So the rest of the brew pub is open, and so there's just regular customers in there going, "What the heck is this?" And there was always at least 10 of them standing there in the back of the room with their drink in their hand, hearing these strange recordings of Soviet cosmonauts in space, going, "What the heck is going on in here?" And you get to meet a couple of them and talk with them afterwards.
Well, that is a good talk. I mean, I was fascinated when I heard it on Skeptoid, but to see it live, because you provide extra illustrations, that's a great talk. But you've got a swag of those sort of talks, I imagine.
Yeah, half a dozen that I give regularly, and more like 10, 20 that I have in the bag.
Now, let's briefly touch on the movie, the documentary, Science Friction, which I've been hearing about for a little while. That's well underway.
It is well underway. Emery, who's the director, he just got, in fact, he's on the plane right now, flying back from London. We did I think we did 5 interviews in London. He's traveling around there with a camera crew for a week. As soon as he's got back, he's got a couple of days to rest up and get back into the Pacific time zone, because we're sending him down to the Los Angeles area to do a couple, 2 down there, and then I think swinging up through San Francisco. So yeah, this is kind of the busiest time right now that we've had since we've been in production. So it's a lot of craziness and a lot of fun, and some amazing, amazing stories.
I'm really looking forward to it. And just briefly, for those folks who may not know, this is a documentary outlining how scientists and maybe skeptical people like us are misrepresented in interviews in the media.
Yeah. Sometimes it's as bad as being deliberately having your sentence be edited to make it sound like you said something opposite of what you said. We've got cases that are as blatant as that. And kind of the whole spectrum, all the way to some of these interviews we're doing right now are with volcanologists who, no matter what they say, it gets reported that the Yellowstone supervolcano is going to explode and kill us all any day now.
Right.
And that just sends them up on their ear. It's so common. It's so common. And it's high time that we put some information out there to advise people that, hey, you are being lied to by the media. Although not in a Trump fake news kind of way. We're saying it, and hey, they're trying to make this sensationalist programming by tweaking what scientists say. They use the leverage. They leverage the reputations that these scientists have, lending that credibility to their material, and it ends up being total BS. It ends up being total BS.
And I something that's happened to me, Brian, it's probably happened to you too, which is akin to this in a way, is I'll be invited to go on a chat show or some morning interview show, and I turn up at the studio, and suddenly standing next to me is XYZ, the psychic, who's there to put the other side. And I go, oh, for heaven's sake. This idea that they can't have a skeptic on without a psychic.
Yeah, that hasn't happened to me. Typically, when I smell something that sounds like they want to have a debate, or a skeptic and a believer, or show both sides, I typically just don't participate in that, because I know how those are going to go.
Well, our good friend Dr. Rachel Dunlop, who's currently living in the United States, that's been her attitude now for many years. If she thinks that it's going to be her against an anti-vaxxer, for example, she just won't do it. She'll point blank refuse, because she knows that's just a waste of time. It might look good for the media or the TV channel involved, but it certainly doesn't help our cause.
No, in fact, we all know from experience that the way you're going to be edited is to make the skeptic look like the idiot. and to make the paranormal person or whatever it is, the anti-vax person, whatever it is they're promoting, they're going to be given the high moral ground. You know, they've got the open mind, and the skeptic is going to be the one who's always trying to throw a wet blanket on everything. They just try to portray the skeptical perspective as negatively as possible.
Or it's portrayed as the crackpot perspective.
Yeah, or the crackpot perspective, and certainly it's the perspective that you can lay all the conspiratorial charges against. Well, of course, he's saying that because he gets grant money, or all of these things.
Yeah. Well, Brian, I take my hat off to you. You've got a difficult job ahead putting all that together, but enjoyable at the same time, I hope. And using your crystal ball and gazing into the future, when might that be available? When might that be finished?
So I do think we're going to have it done in 2019. It's not going to be the first half of the year, but sometimes I think in the latter half of the year. But since this is a theatrical documentary, I kind of need to talk a little bit about how this project is structured, because it's different from most films. Typically, what we do here at Skeptoid Media, making these educational films, there's no commercial angle to them at all. We make educational films. We make educational materials that go along with them. They're funded by private grants and donations by people who believe in the importance of this material, and we then give them out to schools. Now, for this one, we wanted to reach a much wider audience, and we wanted to, really shout through the trumpet here that this kind of thing is going on to the lay people out there who may not be aware of it. The people who turn on the TV and they may think that, ancient aliens are real after all. So we are doing it, we're killing two birds with one stone. We're making it an educational film that's going to have all of the educational materials and be given to teachers and everything. Yes, we're doing that, but we're also going to take it and get a commercial distribution deal for it. Now, it's probably going to be in very limited release in theaters, most likely, although we're going to do our best. But it'll at least get into Netflix and Amazon Prime and all of that stuff. That's a slam dunk. So that's the first time that we're going to have a project that's both commercial and nonprofit, which is kind of an odd animal. So what we're doing is we're still crowdfunding and funding through our donors and our foundations who support us. We're funding the production of the film ourselves, and then the balance of it, which goes to fund the distribution, is going to come from a distributor later on down the road. It may take some time for that deal to fall into place, so I can't promise when it's going to be available for the general public to see, but it should at least be available through our channels in 2019. Now, a bit of this is all kind of crystal ball prognosticating, so don't hold me to any of that, but that's what we're shooting for.
Oh, good things come to those who wait, I suppose we can say. If people want to help this project, which is a very worthwhile project, because I've been stung by this sort of thing to an extent myself, how can people help?
Yeah, you want to come to sciencefriction.tv, and absolutely that's the place to donate to the film. You get your name in the credits. If you want to, you can even get an executive producer credit, an associate producer credit. That's not only a legitimate screen credit, but it puts you into IMDb. Each film we do, we've always got someone who thinks, hey, that sounds like a lot of fun. Buy your way into the film industry. It's kind of a neat way to do it. But if anyone's donation is welcome, every little bit helps. Every donation is going to pay for more interviews, more better stories from these scientists. And the more better stories we collect, the better a distribution deal we're going to get, because the more exciting our film is going to be. But also, just there on the webpage at sciencefriction.tv, you can see a trailer that shows some of the stories we're telling. What you most want to do is sign up on the email list, because that's where I'm sending out all the production updates and some of the stories that we're getting kind of as we get them from the scientists. And these are great stories. So that's a really fun way to hear them. And, of course, you can unsubscribe if you don't like the emails. Sciencefriction.tv. Check it out.
Okay, link in this week's show notes, folks. Brian, I don't have to do that to get on IMDb. I'm there already. I thought I'd just mention that.
Yes, you're very special.
But what I haven't got is 650 episodes up of the Skeptic Zone. Not yet. I mean, I'm heading in that direction. So once again, congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. Yes, your show is very quaint. It's got a nice, manageable number of episodes.
Yes. I look forward to sharing a cleansing ale with you in Bend, Oregon, in the not-too-distant future.
I look forward to doing that again, sir, very much.
Quackwatch, your guide to quackery, health, fraud, operated by Stephen Barrett, MD. Quackwatch is now an international network of people who are concerned about health-related frauds, myths, fads, fallacies, and misconduct. Its primary focus is on quackery-related information that is difficult or impossible to get elsewhere. Articles include Quackery, how should it be defined, how it sells, 26 ways to spot it, how it harms cancer patients, and much more. www.quackwatch.org.
It's a rainy day here, and I find myself at Darling Harbour. As you'll know, not one of my favourite places, people, because frankly I thought it was better when it was a car park. People could drive to work, park cheaply here all day, go to work and drive back. A simpler time, but I am a simpler person. Oh, as our wine arrives, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It's Fiona Patten. How are you?
I'm well, thanks, Maynard.
Now, do I have to say MLA, or is there sort of initials after your name because you are a member of the Upper House of Victoria?
That's right, and I've said to people that they don't need to call me Your Highness or even Your Majesty. No, simply Fiona will be fine.
And I've got to say, you have had an uphill battle in your career as a politician, as the sex party, because people go, oh, sex party, snicker. And now you've got the reason party, because last time I checked, no one could agree exactly what is reasonable in this country.
Well, that's right, and I think what we possibly all can agree on is that we need more reason in this country, and we probably need more reason in Parliament. And maybe not so much sex in Parliament. Barnaby Joyce, looking at you.
I mean, it's a difficult sell reason, and I've got to say, I do like the fact that you're big for prisoners' rights as well, and things like that. Again, a lot of politicians, like euthanasia, the drug debate of any sort, even decriminalising, let alone legalising, is just something that there's a brick wall in front of. Now, they see that the voters will just go berserk if they try this. Same with the safe injecting rooms.
Yeah. You know, isn't it remarkable when we did assisted dying? Yeah, and the reason we did that was, and this is part of this notion of growing from a lobbyist into this role, is that you bring the community with you. And that was what we always learned, that we did our community attitude polling, we had that research, and that's what we took to the politicians, you know. We took that and we did this with assisted dying, and we got the community behind us. The supervised injecting centre, it was the community that was demanding it. It was the ambulance drivers, it was the paramedics, it was the Salvation Army. You know, it was all of these people demanding it. And the politicians eventually caught up with where the community is. And again, we've seen it in marriage equality. The community had moved to here, and the governments and politicians were still 5 steps behind them. I think it's the same with drugs.
So who's a great role model as a politician for you? I imagine one would not be Henry Kissinger. Who would be one of your politicians you go, that's a person who's doing a good job? Hillary, maybe?
Look, Hillary, maybe. That's right. You know, my go-to at the moment, because I'm going to start a campaign.
Elizabeth Warren?
Ardern. Jacinda.
Tell me more.
Jacinda Ardern.
And New York politics.
New Zealand.
Oh,
New Zealand Prime Minister.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking, yeah, of course, yes, that's right. But it's funny. I hear so much great stuff about what she's doing. Is she beloved nationally in her own country as well? Because everyone outside the country just loves her.
Look, I'm starting up a campaign that I actually want Victoria to grow. I want us to buy Tasmania and adopt New Zealand. And I think Victoria would be beautiful. And then if we could have Jacinda, that would be just great. She's the way she has dealt with things with compassion, and the way that she has dealt with, she hasn't put herself at the front of things. She's more interested in what her constituents and what her community wants. And I think she's a really great role model for many of us. And I think Helen Clark before her,
of course, yes,
was another one who didn't take that kind of combative nature that so many men take into their politics. And I think she did that. She has done that very well.
What do you think when you see politicians holding up the Quran and doing videos about bad things in the Quran? I just thought, man, that is such a bad policy, because I could do one with the Bible. It's an easy one to do. It's the Bronze Age book of multiple choice, both of them. You can pick the bit you want.
Look, I think it's appalling, and really, the less religion has to do with our politics, the better, as we know. The one exception for that is, when I become a politician, I have to write what my interests are and how, if they might impact.
Snooker.
Yeah, well, snooker. I have to say I'm a member of the Swans, club, or I'm.
Hang on. That's not a good thing in Victoria to say that, but is it?
Actually, it is in my region, because I have 6 AFL clubs in my region. So I go for the Sydney team.
Good idea. Yes.
But we have to put up those, interests, whether we hold shares in certain companies. I want them all to tell me what church they go to. Tell me what religion they support. It's all very well telling me what football club you support, but more often than not, your decisions around certain legislation, whether it's around religious freedom or whether it's around assisted dying, is actually heavily influenced by the religion that is ostensibly guiding you.
A Muslim or a Catholic, you could probably take a guess at how they might go on certain issues.
That's right. I want them to declare that. I want them to declare what church they belong to, what religious affiliation they have, rather than their football affiliations or their business affiliations. I think the influence of religion is still so deeply ingrained and permissible in our parliaments that's got to change, and it's got to be called out.
With the Reason Party, people have, I think less immigration is reasonable. People could say, I think any immigration is reasonable. You have people arguing like that.
Yeah. And again, let's go back to what's, let's go back to the research. Let's go back to evidence. Let's go back to the fact that we've got...
You're calling for evidence-based policies here.
Cool, I know, people call me radical, but I think it's reasonable that we look at the evidence. And, we know that a lot of our regional communities are struggling. So why are we spending billions of dollars on Manus Island when we could be spending that money in Mildura, in Dubbo, in communities that are struggling for climate reasons or for whatever reasons? There's so many things that we could do if we were willing to speak from a more compassionate area, but definitely from an evidence-based centre.
Well, look, the greatest problem facing Victoria, and if you get re-elected to the upper house, what are you going to do about hipsters in Northcote? They're riding around on penny-farthing bicycles. They're wearing pith helmets. Really, it's getting a bit out of control. Hipsters in Northcote, what are you going to do, Fiona Patten?
Well, look...
See, I said that like bulk there. What are you going to do about it, Fiona Patten? Because saying it's your fault in somehow.
Look, it's some of it is beyond my control, and I'm all for people expressing themselves in whatever way they can. Sadly, for many of those hipsters, they can no longer afford to live in Northcote. So
what's the next suburb?
Well, I know we're seeing hipsters in Reservoir, which I can tell you.
Oh, that's not going to end well.
That was there is a bit of scratching of heads in Reservoir. There's a little bit of that. Romeo and Juliet.
Clash of cultures there.
Clash of cultures up there. But yes, the hipsters of Northcote, they're ageing, I'm afraid to say, Maynard, and they're, as they get older, they're moving to Reservoir, they're moving to Preston, they're moving to Pascoe Vale. And
Pascoe Vale?
Pascoe Vale, yeah.
Well, look, Fiona, it's been great talking to you, and if people want to find out more about the Reason Party, or indeed they can read your book, Sex, Drugs and Electoral Roll, to find out what you're all about easily, but where's the website they can get in contact with you, find out more about the party, or even start an argument with you, like a lot of people seem to like doing?
Yes, reason.org.au. You can find everything about us, and you can yell at us all you like, you know, on all the various social media.
Fiona Patten, thank you, and good luck with Reason. I know it's a hard slog, but good luck with it.
Yeah, thank you, Maynard. Thank you.
Hi, this is Heidi Robertson from the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters. We are a group of concerned citizens dedicated to promoting good science and common sense in our region, the far north coast of New South Wales. This area, famous for its natural beauty and relaxed lifestyle, also has the lowest rates of vaccination in Australia. We are out to change that by challenging the myths and misinformation and by providing good evidence-based information to the community. We'd love for you, no matter where you are in the world, to join our fight. Please visit our webpage at www.nrvs.info. We also have a link there to our Facebook page. Tweet us at NRVaxSupporters, that's VAX, and check us out on Wikipedia by searching for Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Now, just in the last week, I was a guest on another wonderful podcast, Squaring the Strange. Squaring the Strange. If you head to that podcast, and we advertise it regularly here on the Skeptic Zone, you'll hear an interview with me where I chat about the James Randi $1 million prize and all the times I was involved in testing applicants. Thank you to those people who are joining the Patreon supporters here at the Skeptic Zone. I just picked up a new one last week, in fact. Thank you very much. I'm going to send out a little package, a little Patreon package. But your $5 or $10 a month goes a very long way here at the Skeptic Zone, especially if you make that payment in American dollars because of the exchange rate at the moment. But I think we'd take anything, shekels, anything. It simply means that the Skeptic Zone can continue. Coming up on next week's show, more from Maynard at Skepticon. He chats to Lee Murray, the linguist. She gave a really interesting presentation at the convention. We've had Lee on the show some weeks ago talking about linguistics, and it's just fascinating. It's one of the subjects I really, really deeply enjoy hearing about. Linguistics with Lee Murray coming up on next week's show, and maybe I think on also more with Dr. Pamela Gay. She was very generous with her time chatting to Maynard. Lots of interviews from Dr. Pamela Gay, our favourite astronomer. Oh, hello. I think I hear Henrietta sneaking around the door. Hello, Henrietta. You just have to take my word for it because they don't actually meow much. What are you doing? No, there's no breakfast in here. I think she's trying to tell me something anyway. With Henrietta the cat coming around the chair here at the Skeptic Zone studios, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for show notes, contacts, and to access the back catalogue of episodes going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone podcast on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, visit our Facebook page, or leave a review on iTunes. You can also support the Skeptic Zone via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone podcast is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian skeptics or any other skeptical organisation.
Okay, I guess I'm ready.
You're ready, and you're running. I'm running.
Yes.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Here we go. And joining me now, all the way from creaky chair. Damn it. Okay, we'll try that again. And now the plane comes. You know what? Before we do this, let's play the dice game that hi folks, listening at the end of the show after the music. I've got Brian Dunning, who you heard earlier in the show, and we're going to play the dice game with Brian Dunning. Brian, I've got a 10-sided die in front of me. I'm going to roll it in a minute 3 times. And it's up to you to use your international psychic abilities to predict across the Pacific Ocean. And I'll just turn this gain down a little bit. There we go. And see if you can guess or predict what number's going to come up. So
1, 3, and 5.
No. You're not.
What? Is that not the idea?
1, 3, and 5?
Yes.
All right. Here we go. I'm going to roll it the first time, and you have to trust me on this. The first number, folks, is 4.
That's the average of 3 and 5, so that's a hit.
I see. The next number, I'm rolling it now. 5.
Wow. This is spooky.
Uh-huh. And the last number, here we go. Ooh, 8.
God, I was just going to say 8 because we hadn't gotten to the 3 yet. The first number, I picked 1, 3, and 5. The first number was 4, which is 5 minus 1. Second number was 5, which was my third guess. The third number was 8, which is the 3 plus the 5. So that's incredible.
I take it then you'll be applying for the Australian Skeptics $100,000 psychic prize.
I'm not sure an application is needed. Wasn't that demonstration convincing enough?